Hello and welcome back to Shift with Maddie. My name is Maddie, of course, and I am your host. I started this podcast a couple of months ago because I'm currently going on a journey. I have just moved back from Australia, moved in with my parents, and I am looking to make this eventually my full-time business. What I really wanted from this was a way to share everything I'm learning and everything I've already learned, because I did spend quite a lot of time in Australia doing self-development with the girlies. I just want to help you girls. So that is why I have started this podcast. Last week we spoke about the 7 types of rest, and that was something really important to me at the time because your girl wasn't 7 types of resting. She was like no types of resting. So love that for me. And now we are going to go on to something else that I'm really interested in at the minute. So I'm hoping this will help you as much as it's helping me. I started thinking about this particular idea because I've just been on a 2-week holiday, which was amazing. Thank you for asking. I did a bit of a road trip. So I went to London to see a couple of friends, and then I flew to France to stay with my best friend Laura in Lyon. I just said that very French, Lyon. Lyon, I definitely am pronouncing that badly. Laura, voice note me how to pronounce it, please. And then I went to Spain to stay with my parents and also Laura, who came with. And then I went up to Edinburgh to see a couple of my friends up there, including Heather, who I believe will be listening to this. Say hello, darling. And now I'm back here. So it's been an absolute road trip. And the idea for this episode actually came from something that happened at approximately 6 a.m. on Saturday morning or Friday morning? Friday morning. Because I was getting a really early flight, so I'd been up since like 3:15. It was an absolute trek. Shout out to my stepdad who gave me a lift to the airport at 3:15 a.m. Like, what a legend. And as I was getting on the plane, I looked at my boarding pass and I had a middle seat. And I'm sorry, but if you are trying to sleep on a plane, I had about 3 hours sleep and I really wanted a window sleep so I could lean my head against it. Middle seat is objectively the worst seat, and I will not have anyone tell me differently. And so I was thinking, right, I really want to get a window seat. And I'm quite big into manifesting. I'm not really doing it very much at the minute, but I know that I've had some really cool results when I've tried it in the past, including a trip to Japan, I'll have you know. Some sunglasses I found on the floor, lol, and some silver earrings. I'm going to tell you about them another time. That's kind of my manifesting stories. But by the by, I was like, I am going to give this a go. I am going to manifest a window seat. And so I started whapping out all my manifesting tools, and one of my favorite ones is thinking as if. So thanking the universe for already having what you want to receive. I was imagining myself leaning my head against it and how grateful I would feel knowing that I could just sleep against this window. And I was just honestly picturing this for like 10, 15 minutes, and people were piling on really slowly, and it looked like the seat next to me was going to be free, and I was like, bitches, I did it. And then someone came and sat next to me, and I was like, that's fucking rude. However, I didn't let it go. I was like, no, I am manifesting this window seat whether you like it or not. And so I kept thinking to myself, thank you, thank you, thank you. And then I looked over, and lo and behold, there was a window seat available. There was only one person on the aisle seat, empty middle, empty window. So as soon as I heard those flight attendants say, boarding finished, I was like, up. I'm like, right, I'm going for that seat. That is my seat. And anyway, to summarize that story, I ended up having a glorious 3.5 hours sleep on that flight because we were delayed for a bit as well. So winning. Maybe I manifested the delay as well because I needed more sleep, but I don't want to think about that one. Be careful what you wish for. Lol. But anyway, that brings me to today's episode, because I realized that actually one of the biggest tools I use, not just for manifesting, because honestly, did I manifest it? Was it just luck? Was it opening my brain to look for more opportunities? Either way, I got my fucking window seat. I don't care. I had the best sleep. But it made me think about the fact that I actually use gratitude and being thankful in so many different situations in my life. And it's honestly probably one of the biggest tools that helps, not just with like my mood and just generally coping with uncertainty, etc., but it's actually had some pretty cool results in the past as well. And I think it's something I'd really like to talk about. So without further ado, let's get into today's episode. So 2 things I talk about a lot. Firstly, I'm a psychology graduate, I'm a psychology nerd, and I love to know why things happen. So I have got some psychology for you, of course. However, another thing I always say is that I am woo-woo as fuck, which if you didn't get that from the whole manifesting story, then that's on you, because I am not hiding this shit, okay? Like, I am woo-woo as fuck. And so I'm going to start off with a little bit on the law of attraction, because that's really where I first learned about the practice of gratitude and how to utilize gratitude in your life. The law of attraction, for anyone who's not particularly aware, is a belief system which says that we are governed by a higher power, which is the universe in the law of attraction. And the core basis of it is that we operate on certain frequencies. Sometimes we operate on high frequencies, sometimes we operate on low frequencies. But this particular law of the universe says that whatever frequency we are operating on is what we will attract into our lives. And they will generally split this into an abundance mindset and a scarcity mindset. Now, a scarcity mindset is something we're all going to experience at some point because it comes from fear. So it's not like anyone is ever going to have zero scarcity mindset ever. And what that means is you are focusing on lack. You are focusing on the fear of not having. So one example, let's think of a niche example. Do you know those friends who, if they introduce you to someone, they get very precious about your friendship with them and they get a bit jealous when you hang out with that person? That would be a very typical example of a lack mindset because they are thinking there is a lack of friendship to go round. And it might be the same with someone who is stingy as fuck, someone who doesn't get their bill, someone who doesn't pay people back or is really stingy with money or not very generous. That is a lack mindset of money. And I'm not talking about not splurging out. I'm not talking about living within your means, but the people who do not pay their way. And like I said, sometimes there's always going to be fear, especially if we feel like we're short with money or feel like we are lacking friendships. That's generally where those feelings come from. But the opposite of that is an abundance mindset. And an abundance mindset is the belief there is an unlimited amount of resources in the world and that they are available to us. It's not really looking at the physical things in your life right now. It is thinking about the possibility of what is achievable. And gratitude is considered one of the fastest ways to move yourself from a lack mindset to an abundance mindset, because the principle is if you're thinking from a place of lack, you will attract lack of that into your life. If you're thinking from a place of abundance, you'll attract an abundance of that into your life and you welcome more to come in. And if you want to learn more about law of attraction, then the book The Secret by Rhonda Burns is typically considered like probably the biggest book about it. There's so many, if I'm honest. If you just Google law of attraction, it will all come up. But The Secret by Rhonda Burns is probably a good starting place. And gratitude can be used in so many ways. So what I'm going to go through in the second part of the episode is some of my personal examples of the things that I like to do. Also some of the things I don't like to do, but you could do as well. So I'll just give you a load of different tools and you can just choose which ones suit you. But before that, I'm just going to go into the psychology because like I said, I appreciate that I'm woo-woo. It's my belief system, but it might not be yours. And first and foremost, I am into psychology. I like to know if there's actual psychological backing. It doesn't mean I don't believe it if there's not psychological backing, because that's boring. That's what a belief system is, what you hold true to yourself. But I do like to know what actually has psychological backing. And the thing I love about the law of attraction actually is that when you look at the research, there is so much psychological backing. Psychology and law of attraction often say exactly the same thing, but just in different ways, or they give it a different reasoning. But actually what they recommend you do and how they recommend you think and how they recommend people live their lives is actually really fucking similar. So I'm going to give you a little bit of research about gratitude, which I found super interesting. If you're watching YouTube, you can see I've got my bit of paper. I cannot remember names. I will never remember names of psychologists. So you're just going to have to bear with me here, okay? Bear with me. So one really big bit of research was from Emmons and McCullough in 2003. And this was the counting your blessings versus burden study. And they basically had a group of people who would count their blessings and do a gratitude journal every day, or I think it was even a gratitude list. No, weekly gratitude journals. And then they had people who would do negative ones, and then they would have a control group who just wrote about neutral things. And they found that the people who actually did a weekly gratitude journal exercised more, had fewer physical symptoms, felt better about their lives, and were more optimistic about the week ahead than people who logged hassles or neutral events. So gratitude can really lift our mood and actually influence our behavior in a positive way as well. And there's been lots of research since then as well. Gratitude practices are consistently linked to higher positive effect, life satisfaction, better sleep, and even progress towards personal goals. So basically, gratitude is just going to make you feel better, okay? Another thing that you may have heard of is negativity bias and how gratitude interacts with that. So negativity bias is a psychological theory that we as humans will perceive the negative in a situation before we perceive the positive. It's believed to be an evolutionary adaptation. So basically, when we were cavemen, it was more beneficial for us to, see the saber-toothed tiger than it was to see a beautiful sunset or someone that we were attracted to. So generally, we will perceive the negative in a situation first, is the phenomenon of negativity bias. And like I said, it's something we just do as humans. It's not like some people do it, some people don't. That's just how our brains are wired. But what is super, super interesting, and actually I really love the study that came with this as well, is that gratitude is one of the few practices which is actually proven to counteract that negativity bias and to start training us to look for the positive. And what I love about this, there was an actual neuroimaging study. So a study where they were looking at scans of the brain. And this research from Indiana University showed that people who did gratitude journaling over a prolonged period of time had actual neural changes in their medial prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain which basically governs our thinking and decision making. Gratitude actually changed people's brain chemistry compared to the control group. Honestly, when I read that, I was like, that's so fucking cool. Like, there's actual scientific evidence that gratitude can change the way that our minds work. And the last theory that's usually linked to gratitude is the broaden and build theory, which is by Fredrickson. Quite a big piece of research. And the concept of that is basically that positive emotions will broaden your thought action repertoire, which in basic terms means that when you're in a good mood or when you're thinking positively, you are more likely to see a wider range of opportunities. So if you're in a good mood, you're more likely to have flexible thinking, you're more likely to see more options available or have an open mind to situations, whereas if you're in a negative mood, then you are less likely to have those things. And obviously our actions will influence the reality of our lives. And what Fredrickson also suggests is that over time, that broadening of mind through positive thinking builds lasting resources like resilience, like relationships, skills, knowledge, and you kind of generally tend to see an upward spiral. So by training your brain to think positively in the moment, you will start to see that reflected on a grander scale in your wider life. And she actually mentions gratitude specifically in her theory. So this is a direct quote from her work. Gratitude, like other positive emotions, broadens and builds. So it's not just an example that's been allocated afterwards, it's actually a part of her theory. She names it directly, gratitude, as being helpful. So there you go, that's my psychology on gratitude. Law and attraction in psychology just generally tend to say the same things, and also Maddie saying the same thing. Not that that holds the same stick as psychology or law of attraction, I appreciate, but I've actually really found it so helpful in my personal life. And I actually said in last week's episode that I was going to talk about gratitude, and you know what, I'm a bitch who follows through, so I'm doing it literally right now, 1 week later. Bam. Sure. So let's just move on to the bit where I talk about myself. You're welcome. Now, I'm going to give you my personal toolkit of ways that I use gratitude in my life on a daily, weekly, or ad hoc basis that actually really makes me feel better. And I'm also going to give you a couple that apparently are good, but I don't do. Because, you know, everyone's different. So you might be listening to my examples thinking, I do not want to fucking do that. But there might be another one that you like. So I'm just going to give you a load, going to put it out there, pick your favorites, and let's go be grateful. So the first one is the most obvious one. It is gratitude lists. Now, I've said in previous episodes, so many previous episodes, that I don't really like just a standalone gratitude list. I don't really like your generic gratitude lists very much. However, actually, after looking at the research, I have decided I might give them a go. I might, do I? But they were so boring last time. No, I'm going to give it a go. Because there is so much evidence to say that daily gratitude journaling really improves your gratitude. So who am I to turn that down? I'm going to give it a go and I will feed back on how bored I get. But basically, gratitude journaling or gratitude lists is just writing down 5-10 things that you're grateful for every single day. It's suggested you do it in the morning or in the evening, or both if you want to be super grateful, because in the morning, that's when your brain is freshest, so you haven't had all the weight of the decisions throughout the day. And in the evening, that's when we are most likely to consolidate information. So we consolidate memory in our sleep. So if you were to do something just before bed, then that's going to help sort of make that mush into your brain. That is really the technical term. I'm really good at psychology, oh my god. But while I haven't done gratitude lists very much in a general basis, or I don't at the moment, I have in the past, I do actually love them for very specific situations. And the thing that I use gratitude lists for is generally at a situation that could be perceived as negative. As I've disclosed, I've just gone through a breakup. It's been a couple of months now, I suppose. But when I was going through that breakup, I was writing gratitude lists about everything that I'd gained from that relationship, or the things that I was able to pursue being back in the UK. When I was feeling a bit vulnerable and a little bit misplaced, especially if you listen to episode 5, it's literally called I'm Not Doing Great Right Now and This Is What I'm Doing About It, or something like that. I can't remember. But I talk about gratitude in that one briefly, and it's looking at a situation in a new light, because I truly believe that the universe will find a way to guide us in the right direction. And sometimes something that is perceived as a bad thing right now may end up being for the greater good. That actually, there's just a bigger picture I can't see yet. And that really helps me to frame my life in a positive way. I also use gratitude lists for people. So if I'm feeling resentful towards anyone, or if I have an argument or a fallout with someone, then I like to use gratitude lists just as a way to remind me of all of the positive things they add in my life. Or if they're an absolute shit, like if you have a really shitty ex, or you've got some dickhead of a friend who was really mean to you, then you know what? Gratitude list about what you've gained now they're not in your life. The situation in general. I back you all the way, girl. You're not the problem, you are perfect. So that's my first one, gratitude lists. And that's a really easy one to start straight away. You can literally start that today. Just writing down in your journal a few things that you're grateful for. And the more specific, the better. So not just like, I'm grateful for my health. Because the whole thing about gratitude is that you want to feel gratitude. So it'd be like, I'm so grateful that I went for a walk this morning and I was able to use my legs and my knees didn't collapse. I don't know what I'm saying here. You know what I mean. Just be really specific about why you're grateful and try and really feel that gratitude. That's throughout the whole of this. Feeling gratitude is going to be a theme. Anyway, gratitude lists, number 1. Number 2 is a magic rock practice. Now, I actually do this one. I'm going to say most days. I'm not going to disrespect you and lie to you and say that I do this every single day, because I would say my consistency on this is not optimal. However, I do it a lot of the time, and it's a magic rock practice. I've spoken about it in episode 5 again, I think, where I have a rock, a literal like precious stone at the side of my bed, and every night before I go to sleep, most nights, I will close my eyes and think through all the good things that happened in the day. And it will make me smile just thinking about it, thinking about everything that I'm grateful for, all the little moments, all the big moments, everything. And then I will pick my favorite and I will say, thank you, universe. And just doing that before bed is just making me feel positive straight before I go to sleep. And like I said earlier, because it's before bed, it helps with the consolidation of that as well. So that's one I really like to do, and it's an easy one you can do straight away. The third thing I like to do, this one is more ad hoc, but I would say I do this like on pretty much a daily basis, is thanking situations for going right. I think a lot of the time we can be guilty of really getting annoyed when situations don't go our way. So, I'm stuck at a red light. Oh, I'm running late. Oh, I broke my nail. But do we give that same positive energy to situations that do go right? Like one of my biggest ones is, when you like open a car door and you trap your nail in the car and you're like, oh, fucking hell, this is the worst. And it's really painful. And you're like, oh my God, I need to look at this nail. There's going to be blood everywhere. And you're just like bigging yourself up to look at your nail. And you look down and it is literally perfectly intact. And you are like, oh my gosh. Or like when you're running late and then you hit every green light. I think sometimes, because our brains are primed too with the negativity bias, we are very conscious of everything that goes wrong. But I have really tried to train myself to be equally as conscious of when things go absolutely right. So I will constantly be thanking situations throughout the day. And I just find that like a really good thing to do, because it kind of has made me not just focus on the negative. And I can really tell now when I get into a negative mindset, because I'll find myself complaining again, or I will find myself focusing on things that are going wrong. And I'm now getting quite good at course correcting and being like, but what else has gone right? So that's one that I like to do, just literally throughout the day, thanking those situations. And I literally say thank you, universe, out loud. You don't have to be that weird. That's okay. You could do it in your head if you wanted, but I don't care. The fourth one I've already alluded to, and it's a really good manifesting tool. So if you want something to go a certain way, then saying thank you as if it's already happened. So like I did with the window seat, I was imagining me against that window falling asleep, and I was saying thank you for the window seat. And also I actually did this another time in the airport. Airplane travel's a risky time for me, it turns out, because all right, I know I'm not the only one who does this, but you know that Ryanair and EasyJet make you pay for the carry-on suitcase now, which I think is an absolute piss take. I'm just not doing it. I ain't doing it. So I take my rucksack, but my rucksack is always a little bit bigger than what it's meant to be. Like just a little bit bigger. So every time I go through security and every time I'm like handing in my boarding pass, I will be saying, thank you for letting me get on this plane. Thank you for letting me get on this plane. And I'll be imagining myself walking through and smirking to myself that I've got on a plane yet again. You know what? I haven't been caught. I haven't been caught yet, so it's working. Oh my God, just as a little throwback, me and Laura, when we went to Spain, I thought my rucksack was big. But Laura she had this massive, massive rucksack. And I was like, you're never going to get away with that. But we did. We did get away with it. I think what we did there is we might have manifested a delay, because at that point we were so delayed that people just wanted us to get on the airplane and they didn't give a fuck. Anyway, this is how I like to see the world. This is what it's like to live in my brain. Like, I manifested that. It's a great place to be. You're all welcome here. Anyway, number 5 is daily practices. And what I mean by that is like guided practices. So the biggest book that I've done, I'm not going to lie to you when I say this, by the way, I have never finished this book. So yes, it's good while I'm doing it, but it's so fucking long. But anyway, it's called The Magic by Rhonda Burns, who's the same person who wrote The Secret that I mentioned earlier. And it's basically a gratitude practice where she gives you a different gratitude task every single day. So one day I'll be grateful for friendships, grateful for health, grateful for situations, grateful for money, grateful for career. And she'll teach you a lot of different gratitude practices. So that one could be a good one if you are looking to broaden your repertoire or your toolkit of gratitude, even if you just read through it and look at the gratitude practices, because there are actually a couple of hers that I use still. So for example, hiccups. For example, the magic rock practice. And she also talks about gratitude lists for situations that you're not particularly comfortable with. So I kind of have stolen a couple of her practices and put it in my own toolkit, but it gets to about day 21 and I'm like, I can't fucking do this anymore. Because it is a little bit long. So anyway, you could do one like that. I think my favourite podcaster, Francesca Ramba, also has a gratitude practice, which is 21 days. I've never done that one though. But there are lots of different ones that you could get, and you can just get the book and do daily practice. So it's good if you don't want to have to think about it, or if you're trying to embed it into your life for the first time. So that's one thing you could do. The next one I do, and I do this one quite a lot, is thanking specific parts of my body. Again, we're really quick to notice when, like, I had a shoulder injury. I notice that straight away. Or if you're feeling unwell, like, do you know that whole thing where it's like, you never realize how much you appreciate breathing until you have a cold. And then when you get to the end of the cold, you're like, oh, I'm never going to take breathing for granted again, when you've literally been like sniffling for the last week and like snot is up your nose and everything. And then within a couple of days, you forget that until the next time you're ill. That's what I try to embed into my life, like actually being grateful for what's going right, or again, using it as a manifesting tool for things that aren't right now, but I believe are going to get better. So I used it a lot for my shoulder. For those of you who, I might have mentioned this in episode 6 about pole dancing. I can't remember. I had a shoulder injury, quite a bad one last year, and I was out for a while. And I remember I used gratitude quite a lot then. So I was like, thank you for my healthy shoulder. Thank you for all the things you do for me. And I got really specific with what my shoulder could do. Because again, the idea is that if you focus on what you already have, then you'll attract more of that into your life. So I did that a lot for my shoulder. I actually did this earlier in the year, and I think I need to do it again. I started doing really specific gratitude practices for my hair, because my hair has got really dry and quite hard to maintain. And so I started saying, like, thank you for my smooth and sleek hair. I can't remember what I said, but I was basically doing gratitude specifically for my hair. And I swear to you, after about 7 days, my hair got better. My hair was smoother, easier to maintain. I don't know if I was just imagining it, if it was placebo, but even if I believed it was better, still good. And you know what? I need to do that again. Sometimes you forget your own toolkits. Like, there's only so much one lady can do. But yeah, maybe I'll go back to that. And obviously a big one, thanking my liver. Me and my friend Heather on Saturday night had one of the biggest nights I've had in so long. It was so fun. We ended up going to see Swamplesque at Edinburgh Fringe, which is so funny, by the way. Go see it if you haven't already. But then we just, like, we had 2 bottles of wine before we went into Swamplesk. Then we had another bottle of wine at Swamplesk. And then we had over another bottle of wine and gin at the club we went to where we were dancing. And I'm 31 years old. Who do I think I am? But we actually had the best night, followed by the worst hangover I have had in so many years. We had this sauna session booked, and that car ride was single-handedly the worst moment of my life. Like, you know, when you sat in a car just willing yourself not to vomit every step of the way, you're clinging onto the window, you're clinging onto the seat, and you're like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. But I did not forget to thank my liver, because my poor liver was working absolute overtime, okay? My liver deserves better than that. So yeah, thanking anything that you are grateful for, basically. And there's actually a bit of research to go to this. I was about to move on, and then I had a quick look at my notes, and I'm glad that I did, because I saw this study, which again, this is one of the ones where I was like, this is so fucking cool. There was a Stanford psychologist, Alia Crum, and she did a study on hotel room attendants. And in this study, one group of them were told that their daily tasks were already meeting the recommended exercise requirements for the average adult, and the other group were told that they were not. So they were doing exactly the same tasks. The tasks weren't different. It was just that one of them believed that they were getting the recommended amount of exercise through their daily tasks, and one of them didn't believe that. And 4 weeks later, the ones who actually thought they were getting the right amount of exercise, and I'm going to read this list, showed measurable drops in weight, blood pressure, BMI, and body fat compared to a control group doing identical work. So just the fact that they thought that they were getting the recommended amount of exercise actually changed their body composition. That is how powerful our mind is. That's why I'm so obsessed with psychology. Our mind literally governs our reality. It is insane. Like the fact that a placebo effect even exists, the fact that just us thinking that we're getting the right treatment can cure us. Like, there's just so much we don't know about our brains. It's so fucking cool. But yeah, I found that so interesting. So yeah, thanking parts of your body and thanking your fitness. You could even extend that to like thanking yourself for being so active, or thanking the walk for all of the health benefits it's giving you, like things like that, just getting really specific about the things you're doing. The next one I like to do is thanking inanimate objects. So a lot of these ones are ad hoc, you're kind of doing them in the moment, but I probably overall will do these several times a day, just depending on what my situation is. I have trained myself quite well. That's one thing I've done, trained myself quite well to look for gratitude. And another thing I do is I thank inanimate objects. So things like items of clothing. So I remember when I was traveling, I had a pair of New Balances, and I specifically remember like looking at them and being like, thank you for taking me this far, before putting them in a bin in Thailand because I just couldn't do it anymore. They were so gone. And then I did the same thing in Spain this holiday, literally a week ago. I had this pair of sliders and they were disgusting. Like when people saw these sliders, they were like, Maddie, sort this out. This is disgusting. I replaced the sliders. I have new ones now, which are now covered in beer thanks to Saturday night, but that's okay. But these old sliders, before I left, before I put them in the bin, I was like, in my head, thank you for everything we've been through. And it can be quite emotional actually, because if you think about how much you and some of your things have gone through, it's actually, it's quite beautiful sometimes. But also, I do believe that you do need to sometimes clear out the old in order to make space for the new. So, I don't know, it's not like I'm holding on to them, but it's always nice to sort of commemorate that. And another thing I do is I will name and thank things that I use, especially my car. My car is called Heidi, and she's a lovely little Mazda 2. She was my friend's car, and now she is my car. She's lovely. And I will always thank her, especially when I accidentally rev her clutch too much. And one I've done so many times, oh my God, is where I just forget to fill up my car with petrol and I'm driving down the road and then you see it's on one bar and you're like, oh my God, I am miles away from the nearest petrol station, like send help. I bring this on myself. I'll double down on the gratitude then. Not only am I like, thank you, Heidi, thank you for all of the adventures we've had together. And then I'm like thinking about the moment I pull into the petrol station and I haven't broken down, and I'm thanking that moment as if it's already, honestly, that is when gratitude is going balls to the floor. So thanking Heidi. And there was another really specific example actually when I was thinking back to this that made me laugh. Mum, if you're listening to this, I don't actually think you know this one, so I'm going to tell you. But when I was traveling at the beginning of last year, I had a moped accident. I was on the back of a friend's moped. We went around a corner too fast, came off. I was fine, but I was like cut up and a little bit shaken. But I still had a month and a half of traveling to go. So I didn't go on a moped for a while. And then when I did, I was just getting on Ubers and Grabs and stuff. Grab is like the Uber in Thailand and Vietnam, etc. But it's on the back of a bike. So you're riding on the back of a bike, not in a car. But when I got to an island called Koh Tao in Thailand, I was staying at this hostel, which was at the top of a hill. And it basically said on the page, you need to have a bike if you are going to stay at this hostel. So I was like, right, come on, Maddie. I am going to learn how to drive a moped. And so I got a moped for the first time. Very kind guy showed me how to ride it. But I was shit scared on this thing. Like literally people were riding around and I was like that granny going up the hill like, I'm so scared. And so I actually called my moped Julie, which is my mum's name. Because I was like, Julie wouldn't hurt me. Julie isn't going to throw me off the side of the road. Julie wouldn't do that to me. Ironically, my mum's actually not that good a driver. So she's not a bad driver, but she's not great. So maybe I should have like chosen Lewis Hamilton or something. But anyway, I chose Julie and it was actually such a comfort. I was like, thank you, Julie. Thank you for not killing me. So that's another time I used it. Am I just unhinged? I don't care. It's a happy place in my head, okay? You should come join me here. So, Mum, if you're listening, I named my moped after you. You're welcome. And also going back to inanimate objects, this is a Marie Kondo tip. So, we've got to listen to Marie Kondo. She knows what she's talking about. And the last one I'm going to talk about that I do is actually one that goes a little bit... Oh my God, my hip. I'm so old. Ugh, sorry, I just had to adjust myself. It's the one that goes into identity work a little bit. And this one is thanking previous versions of myself or thanking my inner child. So I'll go into this one a little bit. I reckon I will also do a whole other episode on inner child work because it's something I do a lot. But just in terms of gratitude, I will basically ask myself if I'm feeling triggered in a certain situation or if I respond in a way I'm not proud of or if I feel a block towards something or there's like a pattern that I'm trying to break, I will ask myself, how old was I when I first felt like this? Or how old was I when I first saw this pattern? And then I will go back to that version of myself in my head and I will thank them. I will just say, thank you for bringing this to my attention. There's a lot of different psychological theories which suggest that we live with lots of different versions of ourselves. And inner child work is really heavily used in psychology, in therapy, as a way to connect with ourselves without the feelings of shame. That's really the whole purpose of inner child work or of this type of communication, because a lot of the time when we are thinking about things we're not doing, like if we're constantly procrastinating or if we're constantly showing up in a way we're not proud of and we want to change, we will often associate shame with those feelings. And shame is actually one sure way to make sure you don't stop doing that pattern, because your brain will try to protect you from that shame, and the way it protects you from the shame is by reverting back to the patterns that keep you comfortable, which is probably the thing you're trying to break in the first place. So it's kind of a vicious cycle. And so inner child work is a really great way to remove those feelings and to relate to yourself with a lot more compassion. So if I'm feeling triggered, trying to break a pattern, etc., I will say, how old was I when I first felt this? Thanking that version of myself for everything they've done to keep me safe so far, thanking them for bringing it to my attention. But also importantly, I will then say, but I can take it from here. So almost you are reparenting that version of you. You are now the adult that is there for the version of you that was hurting before. So that's quite a heavy one to land on, actually. I feel like I should have probably put that in the middle somewhere and then put one of the more lighthearted ones at the end, because that one's like, anyway, for a deep identity dive, that's the gratitude you can do, thanking versions of yourself. And then finally, here's a couple of ones that I don't use really, but that you could use and that are quite heavily used for gratitude if you like the sound of these ones more. You can do gratitude music. So there's a lot of songs on Spotify. Honestly, if you just put in like grateful or gratitude, then there are so many songs that basically just has lyrics saying thank you for this, thank you for that, thank you for this. YouTube, honestly, so much now, so many people produce this stuff, you will be able to find it. I have a couple of them on my manifest playlist, but not that many actually. I don't listen to gratitude music all that much, maybe a little bit. Saying grace before food, that's a religious practice, but that's why they say grace. It's thanking God, or in my case the universe. In your case it might just be yourself, I don't know, for the food. Gratitude jar, that's quite a nice one. So putting slips of paper into a jar and then pulling them out maybe every day or when you're feeling sad and actually just looking at what you've got to be thankful for. That's quite a cute one. And that's also quite a crafty one that you could do as a little sesh with your girls. So maybe I should do that with my girls. Are any of my girls listening who want to do a gratitude jar? Will you message me if you are, and we can do it next time we see each other? Gratitude letters, so similar to the journaling about people, but actually writing a letter to someone, whether you give it to them or not. It could just be a private one, but just to say how grateful you are to them. Or a physical thing like a gratitude necklace or a gratitude bracelet, something that you can wear as like a physical prompt to remind you of gratitude when you're wearing it, or like a ring or something. You can do a gratitude walk where you could just go out on a walk and just look at things that you're grateful for, or you can do some meditations. There's a lot of gratitude meditations as well. Meditation is something I really want to be good at. Like, I really want to be able to just sit there and be good at meditating, but I just get so distracted, like trying to push the thoughts out of my head. It's one of those things I know I'm going to come to and practice more and more. But right now, it's just not at the top of my priority list. It's just like staring at me in the corner like, Maddie, you know you want to meditate. And I'm like, not now, life. So yeah, I will do gratitude meditation one day, but today's not that day. I very frequently reference that quote, don't I? The Lord of the Rings one. I love Lord of the Rings. I love it so much. So that is my list of gratitude tools. It was a long list, but I'm hoping that somewhere from that you might have found something that you found helpful, or something that you wanted to try maybe. Or maybe you've just got some more information about gratitude. Maybe you have something that you're doing that I haven't mentioned, and I would love to hear from you. So if you do have a gratitude practice that I am not currently aware of, please message me at Shift with Maddie on Instagram. And I just have one last comment, which I think a lot of people will relate to, especially girls, especially the ladies. Gratitude isn't just about giving gratitude. It is about being able to receive it as well. And this is something that I've really struggled with in the past. And I do sometimes find myself slipping back into it, where if people are grateful to us, or if they're like, oh, thank you for this, we tend to minimize that. So we'll be like, oh, don't worry, it was nothing. Oh, no problem. Oh, I was going that way anyway. Oh, don't worry, like you did this for me. What signal is that giving to the universe or to your brain, whichever side you're coming from, about your ability to receive? And I think that's a really good place to start with gratitude as well. It's actually just being able to receive it when it's due to you. So instead of minimizing it, being like, you're welcome, or my pleasure, and literally just taking that compliment. And I think it's super common with not just gratitude, but with a lot of compliments. Girls tend to just bat them aside. But honestly, not only is it going to make you feel better, not only does it make me feel better when I accept gratitude, but it makes the person feel better. It kind of feels a little bit shitty when someone dismisses your compliment and you're like, well, fuck you then. Like, it's just a nice thing to do. So anyway, that's one thing that I'm really, really conscious of. And I do find myself slipping back into that minimizing quite a lot. So I wouldn't say it's something I'm like super great at all the time. I go through ebbs and flows. And that brings me to the end of my episode. So thank you so much for listening. So just to recap, we have gone through the law of attraction in psychology and why gratitude is important in our life. And then I've given you a little toolkit of ways that you can use gratitude in your life. And I wonder if there's anything that you're thinking of right now that you have noticed, either that you're doing really well or something where you're like, oh, I'd actually like to start doing that. Because that's what I love about podcasts. You can just have this little friend in your ear giving you some tips and telling you what she's doing, and you can just take what you want and leave what you don't. I love gratitude. It makes me feel so much better. It's something that really helped me back in 2024 when I was rewiring my identity, and it's helping me now as well, especially when I'm in a really turbulent time of my life where I'm in a very transitional period and it doesn't feel like very much is secure right now. It's actually an amazing tool to keep you grounded and keep you on track and to really grow your mindset to look for opportunities. So like I said, thank you so much for listening. If you liked this episode, it would mean the world if you could rate and review it, because it will help me get this podcast to other people. I love doing this so much, and I've also had some really good feedback about it. I think that other people love it as well. So if you are one of those people and you think that this episode is gonna help someone, or if you think they just want to listen to someone yap, if you actually just think, you know what, she's fine to listen to for 45 minutes, then I would love if you could send this to a friend, because I just want to keep growing this. I just want to keep getting the word out there. It brings me so much joy and I just want to keep doing it, man. I just love it. So please do share. And I will be back next week with another episode. I release episodes every single Thursday, so do come back and give it a listen. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you next time. Goodbye for now.